So welcome back, everyone. We are about to start the second session of this national dialogue for Stockholm plus 50. There will be, we have a number of distinguished scholars and also senior government officials who will be giving interesting presentations during this dialogue activity. Our speakers will be covering a wide variety of topics, which includes, among others, you can see it on the agenda in front of you, policy and also legal framework for multilateral environmental agreements, lessons on landscape restoration and also livelihood improvement for building climate resilience, biodiversity conservation and fair and sustainable benefit sharing, and finally, youth engagement in environmental governance. So we'll cover topics that are related to policy and practice. The first speaker will be, or presenter will be Mr. Mansour Jasenouri. He is the director of multilateral environmental and also an active director of climate change and environmental protection.
Marta?
National multilateral environmental agency. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My presentation will be brief as much as possible. We'll try to keep the time allotted to myself. So my is a kind of somehow okay, great. So my presentation is somehow a general overview of multilateral environment agreements in Ethiopia, especially kind of setting a sail for the next presenters. So my presenters, my fellow colleagues will present specific issues regarding multilateral environment agreements, but I will be kind of more brief. So don't expect each and every details of each multilateral environment agreements in Ethiopia.
Thank you so much, Mansour. We have had some discussion asking you to be flexible in terms of this presentation. So we have one of our guest of honor with us here today. His name is, he's the resident representative of the United Nations Development Program in Ethiopia. So I'd like to invite him to the podium. So that you can. All right. So as you can see, he's sitting right in front of me. So welcome to you. Thank you so much. So we will now proceed the presentation by Mr. Mansour. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. So I will proceed. I hope the timekeepers will consider. Thank you very much. So I will give you just a brief introductory remark about Ethiopia's multilateral environment agreements in Ethiopia in general, and how really Ethiopia responds to these multilateral environment agreements, not specific issues, but as policy and high-level matters. So Great. Thank you. So, it's very, very great to see you here, and also it's a pleasure to talk about multilateral agreements in Ethiopia. So, my presentation is a kind of broader issues, not specific issues. So, by the end of my presentation, I hope you will appreciate Ethiopia's response to multilateral agreements in general, its specific and also multilateralism in general. So, as you will know, Ethiopia is known with so many abundant natural resources and very diverse ecological systems, and also it's I think it's third or second in population of Africa, so it has a large amount of population, but its population are resident in rural areas, very specific to natural resources. So it's to mention about how Ethiopia is impacted by environmental problems. It's a very, I think the photos are very visible. Climate change is the most issue that imposing burden for Ethiopia's economy, not only of course economy, but also livelihood of the community and also population. The other one challenge is, or this problem is about unwise utilization of resources. Third, maybe you can see at the bottom of the photo that pollution, especially the southwest and also of course the west, the major issue that is to be dealt in with regard to the environmental problems. So from this slide, you can appreciate how much Ethiopia is impacted by climate change, especially in terms of drought and also other climate-induced issues, not only actually climate, but also land degradation in general, and also environmental degradation, climate change, which really hampers Ethiopia's economic growth, and also recently dramatic production and also trade of chemicals and hazardous wastes are also under, of course, a great concern nowadays. So, why Ethiopia has actually been engaging in Ethiopia in multilateral environmental agreements? You can see from the photo, right side of the photo, we are part of the 1972 Conference on Human Environment. We were represented by our fellow female representatives, as you see from the photo, and also we are engaging in yearly COPs and also other forums. So we are really interested to engage in multilateral environmental agreements because natural resources are limited. So unless and otherwise we are collaboratively work towards this as a globe, we will be at stake. Our life and livelihood will be at stake, and also developed countries also comprising, of course, utilizing about 80% of natural resources. Well, in terms of population, they are, of course, 20%. That's the reverse is true. Also, the 80% of the world population is utilized only 20%. So it needs really multilateral environment to deal about the environmental problems. The other one is, of course, environmental problems are cross-boundary. So that multilateralism is the only way for bringing on board all the stakeholders and also actors and also responsible government and also other actors on board so as to deal the, of course, ever increasing environmental problems of our globe. So in this slide, you can see how much Ethiopia is really responding to the multilateral environmental agreements. From this slide, you can see Ethiopia has taken action on about 161 multilateral environmental agreements. And also, we are signatory 48, of course, ratified about 47 of this one, and also 49 of them get into the enforce, entry into force. And also, these are the major the major multilateral environmental agreements which Ethiopia has a party to the UNFCCC Paris Agreement and also Montreal Protocol or Vienna Convention and also chemicals. We are also signed and also ratified or acceded for a number of biodiversity, land and related environmental issues. Also, wildlife is one of the multilateral environmental agreements that Ethiopia has really accepted or ratified and also taking concrete action on the ground. So with the fellow next presenters will give you specific actions on the ground. Of course, Ethiopia also one of the very advocator for the regional multilateral environmental agreements. I can say Agenda 23 and also Bamako Convention can be mentioned, and also so many initiatives that Ethiopia has already been engaged on. So, of course, not only we are ratifying and accepting national multilateral environmental agreements, but also we have just taken serious action at national level too. You know, as you will, everybody know that the Ethiopian constitution acknowledges and also recognizes the importance of environment for prosperity of the people and also healthier, of course, healthier and very competitive and also prosperous people. And also we have, everybody know about Ethiopia's environmental policy of Ethiopia, and also we have just enacted a number of proclamations that are very responsible for, of course, gearing Ethiopian citizens as all actors towards sustainable development, I can say. CRG already mentioned as the previous presenter, and also you can see we are not only just launching policies, but also we have been just aligning our policies, environmental policies with development. For example, it's mentioned that environment and so climate change were incorporated into the GTP2 and also recently in our 10-year development plan. So our environment is not separately or solely, I mean, it's not silos with the development actions in Ethiopia. So we have made a lot of efforts towards this. Of course, CRG is mentioned, and also there are institutions who are also coordinating and also representing the country into the international fora, that EPA can be mentioned, and also regional Bureau of Environment up to the very local level can be considered as in this regard in terms of institution. Here, of course, to give you a great and broad insight about Ethiopia's concrete action on the ground, you know, restoration is well known by everybody. But my colleague, Dr. Adams, will talk about a lot of this one, and we are also considering industrialization with zero, I can say zero waste, and also green legacy, reforestation, afforestation, and also there are alternative energy. Our energy is somehow, not only somehow, is more of renewable energy. So alternative energy is one of the areas that responding to the environmental problems of the globe in general, and also nation, in particular the urban greenery. You can mention and acknowledge the Toto Park and also the friendship parks, and we can say electric mobility, and also not only just as policy level, but also traditional agroforestry in Gedio and other parts of the country, especially in the southern part of Ethiopia, is well known is that not only in ourselves, but also registered in UNESCO. So we are also responding to the multilateral environmental agreements at global level by chairing a number of groups that are influencing and positively influencing the four common goods that address environmental problems. That we have led LDCs, these developed countries, from 2017 and 18, and also we were present for CBF, Climate Forum, and also we have really played a key role in adoption of Paris Agreement and also COP26. Here you can see a photo at pre-COP that last year that His Excellency Mr. Demeda is dealing about how we really come up with outcomes that are satisfy everybody, not only developed countries or developed countries. This photo is telling about that one, and also we have not only just signed the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, but also we have undertaken voluntary assessment in 2017, so as to just leading by example, and also have led our things, that's climate committee on heads of states and government at African level, and also we have been engaged and also represent Africans and also others by being bureau member and rapporteur for Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Convention, and also Bamako Convention. Here you can see the partnerships we are striving to just solve and also implement multilateral environmental elements convention. Lima partnership, where about 99 governments have signed and also really launched fast-track investment for CRG in 2011, and also we do have CRG forum which bring on board development partners in the public sectors who are just key for solving environmental problems. Here you can see as a middle, and also we are being engaging at, we do have CRG facility, which is a financial vehicle to access finance directly from the international community, and also we have been part of the NHS partnership, and also P4G. P4G is the one of the platform that is established to engage private sector in the green development and also climate change. So let me give you a few gaps in the implementation of the environmental, which we will acknowledge, and also maybe take notes to support us, especially financial constraint as obvious challenge for every developing country, but also for Ethiopia. So this is to be, we expect, as you see from the previous presenters, that Ethiopia invested in a lot of investment in climate change and also other environmental issues, that we really look forward to see much for support from the developed countries and also other bilateral agreements. So everybody here will work on that one. And otherwise, weak capacity and also technology know-how development and transfer, which is one of the provisions of every multilateral environment agreement. Somehow challenging from our side. We also expect from all you participants from this regard too. Of course, lack of robust data flow and also knowledge management system is one of the issues to be considered, which is a challenge. So one of our presenters will address this one. And also coordination is somehow a part of challenge that is to be addressed. Not only, of course, gaps or challenges, but also to have opportunities and in this regard, availability of finance at different vehicles, GCF, GF, bilateral sources. We really just grateful to all developed countries who are also partnering with us to support us in implement in the way in the process of implementation of multilateral environmental agreements, and also yes, appreciation of multilateral environmental agreements, especially policy plans, and really increasing from not only from the Ethiopian perspective, but also the world leaders also really recognizing this one, so that we have somehow opportunity to work together and also collaborate and making a partnership in this regard. And also active engagement of the efforts to fulfill commitments. You know, every multilateral environment agreement has commitments for developing and also developed countries, especially at this point. Allow me to talk about commitments regarding to financial mobilization and provision. So developed countries are expected to mobilize fund so that, and also to provide to the developed countries, so that as from the assessments we understand there is progress, but still a lot of is to be done in this regard, so as to just address all the environmental challenges we are facing today. And, okay, we have already finished, of course, don't we? Green economy and sustainable development gets recognition in that regard. This could be, of course, an opportunity. So, as a conclusion, Ethiopia will recognize natural environments, also work hard towards addressing, also responding to the multilateralism in general, and also multilateral environment agreements in particular. So, Ethiopian government formulated a number of policies, strategies, and also plans to address this one. So really, CRG and also other ambitious agencies, our ambitious agency, and also so many environmental proclamations and action plans could be mentioned here. Of course, all the challenges really will increase so financial constraints, so we have to address this one. And finally, environmental protection institutions are established as different levels, but they need to be strengthened across the board. So I do have these 4 pointers or 5 pointers as a way forward. I will read them and I will finish my presentation. So there is a need to strengthen capacity, institutional and human at all level, if the ambitious goal of environmental laws and strategies that Ethiopia has enacted is to be made. Development countries and other development partners are to step up their support so as to really operationalize Ethiopia's acceptance and ratification of natural environments and also national laws, environmental laws. Environmental governance need to be strengthened and also follow-up of this implementation of natural environments are to be also strengthened. There is a need to have a robust coordination mechanism. We are striving our best, but it needs further strengthening in this regard. I will finally acknowledge the UNDP, Sweden, government of Sweden, and also UNEP for just supporting us in just organizing this national consultation, or not only this national consultation, but also in every action behind environmental policies of Ethiopia. So I will have discussion points for the afternoon session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mansour, for the powerful presentation. As you can see, here, there are discussion questions. It's a thanks page, actually, but you'll see the discussion questions. So we'll cover those questions when we break out for our discussion in the afternoon session. So thank you for finishing in the allocated time. So I now invite the second presenter, who is Dr. Adolphus Werku. He'll be talking about landscape restoration and livelihood improvement for building resilience to reduce the impact of climate variability and change, lessons from Ethiopia. Dr. Adolphus is the national coordinator of the Green Legacy Initiative Technical Committee. Is based at the Forest Sector Transformation Unit. Dr. Adolphus.
Good morning, Your Excellency, Mr. Trump. Welcome, colleagues. When I was given to prepare a presentation on this topic, I was told that the participants are going to be very diverse. and there would be no representative of farmers and practitioners at grassroots level. So I tried to make my slides, a kind of very traditional one. So don't expect me to talk, a high level presentation. So because I was also been told that the slides are communicative to that diverse audience. So, but what I see here is it seems that we all are kind of experts in the sector. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about landscape restoration and the livelihood improvement for building social ecological resilience. I made a little bit of change on the title. So I hope you all like this figure, Ethiopian and Albasat. Let's adore Ethiopia. And this is going to be very important, and it has to continue in the coming, forestry or natural resource management intervention of Ethiopia. And Ethiopia wanted to really make this simple and initiative even a Pan-African initiative. The Prime Minister is really trying hard to make the Green Legacy Initiative to be a Pan-African initiative, so that it will, add to other African initiatives like the Great Green Wall initiatives, and also the AFR 100 and others. So, because Africa has lost, it is covered. So we need to really work on that one. So the content of my presentations are like that, and today I wanted to a little bit cry, taking into account, we are, celebrating or commemorating the 15 plus environmental interventions. I wanted to, take a little bit of time on crying by mentioning what natural resource degradation have done to our planet Earth, because even after 15 years of global discussion about sustainable natural resource management, still degradation is not stopped. So we are unable to bend the curve. We are unable to reverse natural resource degradation, or deforestation and the forest degradation, air pollution, soil loss, so on and so forth. So don't take me wrong if most of my slides are about to cry, not really about success stories, but I will also mention a little bit of success stories where I talk about response to landscape degradation, particularly what Ethiopia have done during the last 30, 40, maybe 20, 30 years, and also talk about the factors that facilitate or hinder those interventions. And finally, I will try to outline some recommendation. I think this is not going to be very annoying for some of you. I know here some of us are Muslims or Christians, or even some of us might not have the atheists or whatever. But anyways, this picture, I found it. It will explain me better when I cry about natural resource degradation. And so I wanted to take you back to what has been written in the Bible and also in the Holy Quran about the relationship between human being and the natural resource. And there, I don't know the name in Quran, some of you might correct me later on, but in the Holy Bible, that is the Eden Garden, where God has created. Even you can be an evolutionist, but for sure, this point is not going to, somehow differentiate us or marginalize some of the attendants. So, Garden of Eden for me is the planet Earth that I wanted to really represent the planet Earth with this garden, small one, where God has, create that garden with plentiful natural resources, the fruits, the trees, the birds, the waterfalls, so on and so forth. And then, he assigned a manager because that garden needs to be managed. And that manager was the first ancestor of human being. In the Bible and in the Quran, I know that this guy is Adam, and he has his wife, Eve, Hewan. But you can also call these guys Lucy. I mean, you heard that Lucy is died, falling from the trees. Yeah, that was what the evolutionists told us. That means that she used to live in the garden anyway, in Afar garden, in the forests. So, at that time, there was this issue of positive feedback between the human being and the natural resource that has been created by then, where there is no much disturbance to the planet Earth or the Garden of Eden. And by then, both the environment and also the managers do not have much sin. And they are very friendly. They live, they used to live with the environment. And for me, this concept in the Bible and in the Quran, where God told those managers, okay, you are allowed to take anything you like from that garden, but one, not one. And this is one tree, one fruit. And many, religious peoples mention that is apple. Okay, I like apple, but it is very expensive in Ethiopia. It can be, and most of us can ask why God did that. Why He forbidden them not to eat that particular fruit. He allowed. He created many creatures in that garden, and he told them that, okay, use whatever you want, but not one fruit. And for me, is that this concept of sustainability. Maybe God wanted, to introduce the issue or the concept of sustainability, the positive relationship or the positive feedback between human beings, the managers, and then the created or nature. So I try to understand, that tree as symbol of sustainability, not to distract the environment or to sustainably manage that environment. For sure, Eden of Garden, you can find that symbol even in Ethiopia. This is the western forest of Ethiopia, where you can find in a single plot, you may count, like 50. Dr. Tadessa has worked his PhD in Yayu Forest as well. I was his expert or field data collector by then. When is that, Dr. Friday? Maybe 2002? 2002. So we lie, one plot, and we count more than 53 species. Even we don't count maybe sometimes, the grasses and the harvest. So, this garden is already there. And that garden in Ethiopia has made, Ethiopia to rank 5th and 25th in the world in terms of its biodiversity. Later on, maybe Dr. Mellasa can reflect on this one. And Ethiopia is also hosting 2 of the 34 mega biodiversity belts of the world. This is not going to be a small one. And the forest garden of the country are the warehouse for this huge biodiversity of the world. You can imagine, the species diversity, particularly if you go to the dry forests, which is really not much appreciated and regarded in the Ethiopian, environmental discourses. And we have a number of species, wildlife, and also your coffee. And it is this Eden Garden that, hosts all that very important natural resources that the human being has been, using today. And I know also those forests or those gardens are being giving us a lot of ecosystem services. For instance, the Bale Mountain Forest, where you find on one mountain, you find more than 40 water points that have been, feeding those all 5 transboundary rivers flowing to even Somalia, the Puntland, Somaliland, and also to the Mogadishu, feeding, more than 50 million people in the lowland part of that part of Africa, I can say, so that you can imagine how those forests or those gardens are, the source of life. Also, with UNEP, Ethiopia has undertaken a very comprehensive study and found that forestry is really a very important source of the GDP, and I don't go to that one. But coming back to my cry, is unfortunately it didn't take very long for the managers who have been assigned to manage that Eden Garden or the planet Earth, to start to, break the law. And then it was this single fruit that they were told not to eat, but later on, many new actors came in before, the law was between the creator and the creature. But another actors came into that discourse and they started to, negotiate and conspire with those managers of the garden. And later on, they decided to eat that, forbidden the human being started to focus on the use of the garden, not about its sustainable management. And it is that idea of focusing on the utilization of the Eden Garden or the planet Earth that has brought us to, nakedness. Later on, when according to the Bible and the Quran history, when after they ate that apple, now they recognized that they are naked. And this nakedness to me is the landscape degradation we are facing today because we removed, much of the forest cover of our nation. You can imagine, the amount of forest that we have been degrading in the world. And the world used to be, full of forests. And this is science actually. And there is enough data for this one. And even in Ethiopia alone, between these years, 2008 and 2013, we used to deforest 92,000 hectares of forest annually. This is not a small one, honestly speaking. And because of all this deforestation, we have been releasing this amount of ton of GHGs to the atmosphere, which again is becoming to suffocate us. Talking about landscape degradation, I mean, we are done, like you can imagine that 35% of the Earth's surface are already degraded. And you can imagine the number of people suffering because of degradation globally. And then come to Ethiopia. And this is the result of the study by WRI, where 54 million hectares of land already degraded in Ethiopia. But okay, it shows different level of degradation, but 11 million hectares of it is needing, very urgent intervention. Otherwise, it will desertify. Dry lands in Africa and also in Ethiopia expanding from time to time. That is not going to be really a small challenge for us. You can imagine, this type of landscape. So you can see that they used to be, gardens. They are used to be forests. And not only the soil, but also the water of Ethiopia. Then, you can also associate a very huge cost to this landscape degradation that have been undermining sustainable development in the country. And landscape degradation is also exposing us to a very massive vulnerability to climate change, because this is how GDP of Ethiopia is behaving with rainfall. When we have a good rainfall, then our GDP is also fine. But with less rainfall, you can imagine how our GDP has also been failing. And many studies show that growing period for many crops in Ethiopia has become short and shorter, and then that is becoming a challenge for the farmers. I mean, this is very common, what has been happening because of drought and also the adjoint effect of landscape degradation in the country. Invasive species, we don't talk about it much. Prosopis, water hyacinth, they are really taking over us. A large number of water bodies and also natural forests. Unfortunately, indeed, agricultural productivity in Ethiopia is increasing, but this data came from the agricultural guys themselves, that agricultural productivity increment came in the expansion of arable land. What does it mean, arable land in Ethiopia? You can imagine. And this is the study done in Africa. Africa needs to increase food. That means that deforestation is going to continue in Africa. No, in this map, I wanted to show that, in the future, unless and otherwise, global community will help us, and we started to discuss sustainable forest management and agricultural production in Ethiopia are going to collide, because the future expansion of agriculture is heading towards where we wanted to conserve some of the high forests in the country. That is also going to be. Now I come. I will stop my cry and come back to give a little bit of examples or what we have done in response to those degradation impacts. One thing that Ethiopians are proud of is that Ethiopia started landscape restoration long time ago. This park, the Managasha Park, now if Mr. Turan went there, maybe he feels this is natural forest because it's already 500 years old now. And this is in curriculum of many African countries that even I learned it from Ethiopian teachers. So we heard later on from some African anthropologists and researchers that we began very long time to restore landscapes. You can imagine how many years back Ethiopia has domesticated coffee. You can imagine our extensive agroforestry system, the Gedeo and the Konso cultural landscapes, and we began very long time to respond to the issue of landscape degradation, and in some of the cases there are a number of stories. You can also find these sacred forests. This is the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. If you go to the northern part of the country, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of agricultural land, if you fly to northern part of the country and if you see a green plot, then in between you will find Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and then you can imagine the role of this sacred institution in conserving Ethiopia's biodiversity. That is also a success story. We used to see this type of photo from Vietnam, Thailand, so on and so forth, but now that is even coming in Ethiopia. This is in Yam, Liuwarada, where people used to do the agriculture without any intervention, but now they are really trying to conserve their soil and try to live there. Woodlot has been increasing from time to time in Ethiopia. That is, the result of this reforestation. This is Fagitala Koma support. Where Sweden guys are also very much focusing in that district. In 2005, it was like that, but this soil became very much acidic, so that they cannot continue with teff production. Otherwise, this is a very teff production area, but now, gradually turned it out to woodlot management, the Acacia dicarras. So Arangwade Ashara, the Green Legacy Initiative, is the one that, again, galvanize, the already ongoing landscape restoration in Ethiopia, because it is also managed, by the top leaders of the country. So, because when the top is fine and healthy, then the bottom will. That is how I see, because Green Legacy has inspired millions of people to think of that degradation and start to respond and contribute what they can, at least. You can imagine the number of times that the prime ministers went out to plant a tree and also to water. So this will show Ethiopia's commitment to restore degraded landscape and to achieve, those huge pledge to the global community. 22 million hectares that we pledged to the Bonn Challenge and also to New York Declaration, so on and so forth. You can imagine the teachers and the students, the farmers who really determined, to work on the soil to restore those degraded lands. Green Legacy Initiative is, a platform that is able to bring the son. This is my last son, my elder son, and myself, also to give time for, minimize that conflict between me and also the Eden of the Garden of Eden, and that is really not a small inspiration for our citizens. You can imagine this, good experiences. In Ethiopia, we used to do tree planting, but survival used to be our main problem. In the age of Atuababu, Mizerowa, many of the senior guys here, we used to do the planting, but survival used to be very small. But it is improving because we started to become a little bit serious on site management, on site preparation. This is one of the FSQ site. modern restoration site in Dangago, where we wanted to also stop that, flood coming to the Redoa. So, and also you can imagine, we have been improving the quality of seedling, which is contributing to also that survival. And this is also because of the inspiration of the Green Legacy and other, natural resource management intervention. These are some of the examples, and I can also stop here. So, I think this is also going to be very important for the global community. While we are restoring land, we are also removing carbon dioxide. We are trying to use this Windrock tool to compute how much our restoration interventions are going to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere until 2030. And that is really very much, the figures, the preliminary figures are really very much indicative and encouraging. Mr. Turam, this is my pleasure when I mention this. When we communicate our reference to UNCCD, our deforestation is here. Now our deforestation has become, it is reduced to 33 hectares by 2021. And mainly this is because of the effort of Ethiopian government and also the support that the government got from partners, including UNDP, to put close to 1 million hectares of natural forest under PFM, where really contributed a lot in minimizing that deforestation. This is a recent assessment. And there are a number of limitations. And this is my last slide where I wanted to really put some recommendation or discussion pointers, but later on, participant can also reflect on that. But again, we need to really increase the enabling environment. Now, Ethiopian forestry development, EPA, EBI, there are many institutions that can, join hands to continue strengthening, the effort to restore landscape. But again, there are a number of, mislinkage between the policy, education, research, and extension in Ethiopia. Now, this needs to be really further strengthened. The issue of knowledge management is an issue, particularly in the forest sector. And if we are able to really improve this issue so that we will transform the forest sector of the country, and then we stop crying and rather enjoying, the fruit. And I suggested some discussion pointers, but can be picked later on. And thank you for your attention very much.
So thank you so much, Dr. Adefrus. We are so down when we look at the first 3 slides, but finally you put a smile on our face by telling us that the deforestation has reduced from 92,000 hectares to 33,000 hectares. So kudos to all of you who have worked to really reduce the rate of deforestation in our country. Thank you for the presentation. Also, you didn't manage the time very well, but this is just a reminder for the next presenter, who is going to be Dr. Melissa Mario. He will be talking about biodiversity conservation, sustainable use, and fair and equitable benefit sharing. Dr. Melissa is the Director General of the Ethiopian Biodiversity Institute. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
Just have the mic. Just a reminder that we will have another presentation after involved for lunch. Lunch will be served on the 3rd floor. So we've made a minor modification to our agenda for